multifaceted gold.
So the first part of this podcast is going to be me laughing at something that you've just said that's wise beyond your years, right? So,
oh, thanks. Well, it depends on how many years you think I have.
Nicole, thank you, firstly, for taking the time. It's an honor to have people like you on a podcast like this when it's in its infancy. You're my third guest, so this, I hope you feel the honor.
I am slaying all day. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be asked to come on.
Good. And I think the reason I wanted you to be on it is a couple of things. I think when we met at the Elite Business Day, you shared a mission or a purpose around why you were studying to be a PT. And so I had to get you on and kind of unpick that journey a little bit, but also just share your story with other people then as well about what you're trying to do and why. And the reason for this podcast, I don't know if I told you this, is I want to really try and inspire people who may feel ordinary, but show them through examples from other people that you could be beside in the queue in Sainsbury's or Tesco. You're capable of unbelievable things. We just need to stop believing the bullshit stories that hold us back. 100%. So that's the aim. So for anybody listening, firstly, thank you. Nicole, do you want to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about you, what you're up to and what's going on for you in your life at the moment?
Oh, this chapter. This is an interesting one because you sent me this in the questions, like what's going on in this chapter of your life. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, if you probably know better than me. Well, I would say the chapter of my life that I'm probably just maybe, I don't know if I'm finishing this one and moving on to the next one stage of evolution, but it's definitely been an awakening. It's been one of those ones where I took the leap and I decided to go after what I wanted, and I've stopped making excuses for things. I would have been a really, really good like excuse maker, probably made an art form out of that. Even though I would tell everybody else around me to stop making excuses, but like we are in the chapter of getting rid of those. So basically, on New Year's Eve, it was a bit like somebody came into my life and went, have you ever seen that bit of Father of the Bride where Frank Egelhofer gets to the house and he goes, oh, it's very nice. We change it all though. Basically, that felt like I was happening. I was kind of coasting. I was dependent on other people. I was doing fine, but do you know what I mean? I wasn't about to set the world alight or anything. And then it was like New Year's Eve. One thing happened, like I lost my job. Like it was just basically, there was a load of things happened, but I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, started studying ACA. Just like basically it was like somebody came into my life and just went, right, we're flipping the table. Oh no, I remember, sorry, this is the real tangent. I remember like don't know if you believe, and I was going through a wee bit of a phase where I was finding my feet with spirituality and like beliefs and manifestation and things like that. And I was just sitting there thinking about what I wanted for 2022. And I was like, I want to use the first 6 months to a year of 2022 to build myself up for the life I want. I want to set myself up for the life I'm going to have. And I thought I would have it done in 6 months, but like, you know, I also thought about CEO of a multinational corporation by the time I was 25, whenever I was 19. So that just shows you how delusional I am on time. But so basically, I was decided that things were going to change, that this is the year it was going to happen. And it was like on New Year's Eve, the universe, God or Buddha or whoever you believe in, came in and went, you wanted the decks cleared? They're cleared. Everything, every relationship, every person, every like excuse, it was literally just like, okay, go, the path is clear, off, start your engine, let's see what you've got. So I was kind of like, okay. So then signed up for the ECA course. I remember actually saying to Lenny on my last day, I was like, oh, signing up for that, like closing that sale was the best thing you ever did. You've changed my life. And he's like, Nicole, to be fair, it wasn't that hard. Like all you had to do was like, hang on, let me go ask my dad, because I was in the financial situation. My dad paid for my course. So that was a big help. Thanks for that. I will get it back. It's just a matter of when. But yeah, so essentially now that that's done, it's time to start the work. So we've done the soul searching, we've learned the lessons, we've like learned the self-belief exercises, we've got rid of the excuses, got rid of the bullshit. And now it's like, okay, we've done that shedding bit. So it's time to like put the work in. It's the 6 month of Sonic, is what I'm calling it. Sonic the Hedgehog.
Nice. And I love that clearing of the decks, or like a blank page almost, right?
It
So
was
that's so healing.
crazy. It was honestly like I was sitting at a really cluttered table and somebody just put their arm across it and cleared it. It was insane. And it happened in the space of 24 to 48 hours. And I remember everybody around me was panicking and I was chilled. I was like, it's fine. This is exactly what I've asked for. This is exactly what it's meant to happen. It's not exactly happening in the way I want it to happen or the way that I possibly would like it to happen, but it's happening in the way that's best for me. And
so
I'm
was
fine
this
with
a
this.
feeling, or was this like a mental space that just cleared, or what was
No,
the
it was like
how did it show up?
What do you mean, the feeling of certainty and like okay with it?
Or just the clearing of all that stuff?
Well, my job contract that ended
Okay, got it.
with no notice, basically. So I was like, right. So I set about the task of searching for a new job. I did 37 interviews in 4 weeks. Got a job that I'm in now. It's great, absolutely lovely. Really so lucky to have it with an amazing company and an amazing team around me, and I've so much to learn in this role that I'm really excited for it. So I started that job while studying alongside ECA, so it was literally like, okay, I'm finally doing the steps of learning to be a personal trainer and a coach, but I'm also learning to be the head of a department. So it's like, right, so we're learning a lot of things. And then as well, it was just really strange. I'm actually, and now it feels so long ago. I'm trying to remember what else happened, but I think there was like some financial stuff that needed cleared. That was just gone. There was like other ties to various different things. That there was a relationship that just ended overnight. There was, with no drama, it was just over. And it was like anything or anyone or any sort of energy that was holding me back just sort of evaporated in the space of a day. It was really bizarre. Like, I really can't explain it. It was so strange. But it was it was weird because everybody around me was like freaking out. Like, my mom was crying. My dad was like ready to have a panic, but my parents are panickers. They're like, they've government jobs. My mom grew up going to civil service. My dad's a teacher. They're like, get your pension, get married, buy your house. Like, my dad has sent me mortgage offers from the post office like on a weekly basis since I was 19. Like, that's just what he does. He used to like buy a house, and I'm like, oh, holidays. But that's just what, like, we're just built differently. So I can understand they were thinking, oh my God, she's no safety net. And I was like, no, I completely trust this. This is fine. And he was like, my parents were like, are you on drugs? Like, what is it? And I was like, no, it's honestly fine. Like, it's gonna be fine. I'm exactly where I need to be. This is my chance to build things. And my mom was like, you're delusional. Like, you are crazy. And I was just like, no, honestly, it's completely fine. It's exactly where it needs to be. I'm fine. It's good. It's all good.
It's the image that comes to mind is like a lighthouse in a storm. So you're super clear on what your light or your direction is into the future.
Yeah.
But there's chaos or a storm going on around
you.
Yeah. But you're actually really grounded and set where you are and clear on where you're going.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely chaos. There's still stormy chaos around me. There definitely is. There's going to be obstacles. There's going to be bits where the waves are really high and, you know, a ship might sink or something, but you know what? Shit happens. Like, it's fine. You get over it, build a new one. You'd like lash a couple of sea turtles together with hair from your back, you know, Jack Sparrow it. It's fine. But it definitely taught me adversity. It taught me, oh yeah, I remember else. I was trying to remember what else I started. It was in January after the death of Ashley Murphy. I started a network of walking groups across Ireland called Steps to Freedom. And it really took off. It sort of exploded. So between that and the 37 job interviews we're doing and then starting at ECA, it was a busy January. Like, that was crazy. And also, yeah, I cleaned up my entire wardrobe. Got rid of so many clothes. I think I threw out 17 bags of clothes. And don't ask me how if someone has 17 bags of clothes. I hoard things. I'm a hoarder.
I'll ask my wife.
It was just, yeah, literally, I'm sure she understands. But it was just like, yeah, it was really weird. It was just the whole decks were just cleared the whole time. And then there was a job I really wanted, and I was definitely sure I had it. And basically was told to my face in the final interview that I had it. And then got an email on Monday, 3 days later, to be like, no, I changed your minds. And I was like, what? But at the same time, I was like, well, if that's how that works, and then I'm better not getting that job. I ended up getting a far better one. So basically, yeah, we're trusting the process. It's scary, but it's like I feel a wee bit like I'm on the edge of the cliff, and it's like, right, how long am I going to dangle before I dive? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that, like, was there hesitation before kind of committing to this journey? But from that blank page, it's almost like it's going to write itself, but you're writing it as you're kind of moving anyway.
Yeah, I think even whenever I think it was like around February or March, like I was studying and working, and I felt like I wasn't committed to either mentally or emotionally. Do you know what I mean? I was doing exactly what I needed to do, but I felt like I had one foot in each life. And it was actually Andrew Lawler and ECA and Lenny, the two of them. I was like, I feel like I'm not doing anything right. I feel like I don't know if I have so much to learn. And then obviously Lenny does what he does, and he whips out the quotes. And he was like, well, he's like, you know what I told you in your first night here? And I was like, yeah, the less that you know, the more you think you know, and the more that you know, the more that you know there is to know. So that one. And then I was just like, I feel like I'm adding value to nothing. And he was just like, well, even in the city of the blind, the land of the blind, the one-eyed, yeah, exactly, the one-eyed man is king. And then he's like, or in your case, queen. And he was like, you can always add value, and you can always learn. You can always add value, and you can always gain value no matter what situation you're in. And I was kind of like, oh my God, yeah. Because I felt like in the course that I'm not in the shape I want to be in. Everybody was running around rings around me physically. And then Lanny was like, yeah, but you know how to build a business. You know how to market a business. You know the finances. You know like how to start this. So like, you know, you've got the hard stuff nailed. And I was like,
yeah.
Oh yeah. Like it was like I completely forgotten my worth. All I was doing was focus on what I lacked. And then it was kind of like, yeah, it was a really strange place to be. And it was like then I came home that evening and I watched The Devil Wears Prada. And this is going to sound so silly to so many people, but I grew up in like the girl boss era where it was like The Devil Wears Prada, Miranda Priestley was an icon. And I decided when I watched that at 17 that I was going to be Miranda Priestley. That was it. I was going to be editor-in-chief of Elle magazine or a CEO by the time I was 26, 27. Like I was completely delusional. Like, I mean, there's no reason why you can't do that. But also I thought I was going to walk out of university to do that job. Like, I mean, but that's what I mean. I had that unwavering self-belief and that I was capable of that. And I was like, 17-year-old me would be disgusted with how things have slipped. So it just kind of went, right, what would 17-year-old me do? Because she had a will of steel and confidence that nobody could break. It was crazy. So that was good. But yeah, it was it's an interesting place where I'm at the minute. It's like I've done all the heavy lifting, I've done all the healing because I've done an awful lot of work over myself on the past couple of years, and I had an awful lot of trauma to deal with. And now I've got that done. And it was really weird. I had a session with my therapist and she was like, Nicole, you've done it, you're done. And I was like, she's like, you don't need your tank anymore. You're not being attacked. No one's attacking you. And I was like, holy shit, right enough. And then I was like working with a food freedom coach as a collaboration, and I brought loads of stuff up there the session the day after that. So that all that healing was done. And I think that was the week before I met you actually. And then I went into that business day and I was like, right, let's go. It's time to go. Like and then I felt like I hopped onto a treadmill that was already running very fast. So that was it. But yeah, so I'm just excited to see what happens, because it's even things like getting my steps done or starting new series of content. Like I just started filming a series of content yesterday called The Dander Diaries, where it's going to be about, when's this coming out?
Today.
Okay, well they're releasing from Sunday night. But I had that idea like a year ago and I put it off because what if I don't do steps one day? And I was like, how about I just do the steps every day? And then I was like re-listening to Atomic Habits and just like building the habits of someone who does the steps every day. So that is a really long waffly answer to the question you asked. I don't even actually remember what the question was now.
Well, like I'm looking at the questions I was going to ask you, and it's like you're covering lots of them already, because you talked about like who supported you during those times when you were kind of committing to the path ahead. You mentioned Lenny, you mentioned Andrew.
And PJ, Patty Joe was amazing. I had a good 2.5 hour Zoom meltdown to that man. I won't laugh. It's been like it's all good. Been all good vibes since.
Yeah. And you mentioned then some of the challenges as well. And
Yeah.
like that, I'm going to a therapist next Wednesday because of the coaching work that I do. Like I'm trying to look after myself and keep myself right.
Yeah.
So I value that, and that's part of your journey as well. And it makes such a difference then to who you are and how you show up for other people, because you're a cleaner version of who you were.
Yeah.
Right. You're just taking back off that
100%.
dust.
It's exactly. And like, if there's things even now with like, I've done so much healing, people, you still get triggered by things. Like there was a situation that happened to me this week and I was like, I am level 9 triggered here and I couldn't figure out why. And then I was like, who does this person remind me of? What is this, the way I'm being spoken to reminding me of? And it came to me straight away. It was like, my mom and me didn't have the best relationship when I was a teenager, and it reminded me of how my mom used to speak to me when I was a teenager. And as soon as I was like, right, okay, I don't actually have to take that on. It has no power over me. I can move forward and just get rid of the emotions and handle it like an adult. Take a step back, realize it's actually not about me, and just do what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's quite freeing. But how are you getting on with your stuff?
Good. She said to me in our first session, like, I don't really know why you're here.
Well, that's the biggest compliment ever.
Cheers for that, but I'll see you in a couple of weeks anyway.
Yeah,
so.
I'd take the check anyway though.
And I paid her up front for the next session, and she's like, you don't have to pay me up front. And I'm like, yeah, but that's okay, but I'm diligent. Like, I want to do the work and I want to do these things because I care about it a lot. And like you said before, that quote about it's Dunning-Kruger, the more you know you don't know.
Yeah, basically.
I know I have so much to learn, so I'm just so open to it.
Yeah, and that's amazing. That's one thing I noticed about you is you're so receptive to learning, and you're so like, I think when you're such a good coach, but you're also so coachable. And Lenny's the same. Like he's like, you were coaching him, and it was like you were like, do this, do that straight away, and I mean, instantly changed it. And I was like, oh my god, if Phil ever coaches me, he'd be like, Nicole, stay still. But it was interesting as well. Like it was just mad to see, and it's so good and to actually have the opportunity to be in the room with some of the greatest minds of our generation and learn from some people in the industry. And I think people think the fitness industry is something that's like full of meatheads and like full of roids and like all this here stuff. And of course, I'm sure is that side to it, or maybe there was once upon a time. It's definitely not like that anymore, at least not the people that I'm surrounded by. And it's just the best industry in the world. Like, and I'm only a dip and a toe at the edge, but I'm like, let's swan dive into this pool. I'm ready. Like, it's class. Everyone's amazing, and there honestly is a space for everybody.
Yeah. And when you kind of think about this kind of journey that you're on, so clearing the page and writing a new story and living into it and habits and all of these kind of things that you're moving towards, if we go back to the butterfly picture that I showed you, right? How do you handle people that want to keep you as a caterpillar when actually you're moving towards being a butterfly?
Oh, it's hard, It is hard. It is really hard, because sometimes you have to look at you have to kind of, right. Basically, a lot of the time they're trying to keep you safe, and you have to realize that a lot of the time it comes from a place of love. You can tell sometimes when it comes from
Did you
jealousy.
listen to all my stuff?
No. But this is just my therapy head talking.
This is all I talk about. Fear is love wrapped up.
It is, but it's also because it's because of the work I've done in my relationship with my mother. She is an amazing lady who's so full of love, but is also so full of fear. And her main core value is security, whereas mine is freedom. So we are total opposites. So she cannot understand me at all. She's like, what? Amazing. But like, me knowing that, I am able to have compassion for it. And it's hard sometimes because I do have my impatience is always held me back. I'm working on this. I tend to be impatient at times. I'm not an impatient person. I just tend to have a habit of being impatient sometimes.
Good catch.
Thank you. And then whenever I feel myself getting irritable with her, I take a step back and see where she's coming from. She wants the best for me. She wants to keep me safe. She wants to be like secure. Like, imagine like a really overbearing comical Italian mother in like a film who's like, oh, Antonio, why you got spaghetti? Oh, why you don't see mama no more? Like, that's the way she wants to keep her son close to her. Like, my mom is like that. It's like, but what you have to realize is that, like, do you ever see whenever somebody gets a puppy and they hug it so tight, the puppy's like, let me breathe. That's what that person is doing to you. And you have to like handle that. Then the other side of the coin is the people who maybe either they maybe not are ready to look at themselves, or they're not ready to look at where they're at, or not ready to admit that maybe they're not happy with their own life. And there's a bit of a, what's the word? Can I swear? There's a bit of a, fuck does she think she is? Like, and there's also a bit of a like a kind of, oh, you've changed element. You're not there for me to fill my cup because you're filling your own. There's a bit of that. And I've experienced a fair bit of that, to be honest. It's like whenever I was putting myself first, these last 6 months, I did end up finding out like who, and maybe I could have communicated it better, like, listen, I'm really focused on myself, I'm not going to be able to be there for you as much as I normally am. And then there is that kind of element where you kind of go, actually, okay, you're attacking me right now and I'm really not really here for it, so you can go and take that somewhere else. And while their feelings might be warranted that you are not as there for them as you normally would be, they probably weren't as there for you either, or maybe not even as there for themselves. So there is that kind of aspect of people who will watch you pruning your garden and looking after your plants and trimming the buds off your roses and all that stuff, and going, but why is she paying attention to her garden and not mine? Do you know what I mean? Whereas before, if you'd have been one of those people who went around, like I was, who went around watering everybody else's patch of earth and neglected your own, then when you start watering their own, they're like, I'm thirsty. Why are you not giving me your water? Do you know what I mean? Because they've got used to that standard. And then, but it's actually, you're like, I have to be best friends to me before I can be best friends to you. And if you can't handle that for a few months, that's okay, but it probably means I'm going to just leave that at that. And that's hard. It hurts. It's not easy. It's not nice. And it doesn't feel good.
Well, it's because it's a rule or a standard that you hold, as in, and you see them as an or. It's either I look after everybody else or I look after myself. We never find the and. It's I can look after other people and I can look after myself.
Yeah.
It's just the join. It's the and. They don't have to be separate. And the rule sometimes is, and I've seen it in some of the notes I've taken from coaching conversations, I look after everyone. Everyone? Really?
Everyone?
Right?
You look after you too, honey?
But this is the thing. We fall victim to these little phrases that we say, and they imprison us.
Yeah, and you literally form yourself into a tree hidden behind a wall. Isn't that right, Philip?
So do you want to say more about that?
Yes. So before we press record in this conversation, Phil was telling me a bit about what you're presenting at the summit, which is going to be really exciting. If you haven't got your ticket, by the way, ticket's still available. Also, please feel free to contact me. You can get a ticket through me. Just saying that. Message me on Instagram. What was I going to say? Yeah. So basically, Phil was saying about this exercise, and what you're pitching, what you're talking about at the summit is butterflies.
Don't give it away. No, I want to give away the minimum. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm just kidding. I'm only teasing.
Oh my God, did you actually do that to me?
Yeah, I did. Don't worry.
Can I actually say those 3 points?
Of course you can. I'm only teasing.
Okay. Oh, honestly,
that'd be funny.
Stomach fell into my arse. But yeah, so it was butterflies, trees, and bullshit. So basically, we were talking about the butterflies, we were talking about the bullshit. But then whenever you were like, okay, this is a coaching exercise to do, pick a tree. Straight away, I've seen a lot of trees in my life. I've been in a lot of trees in my life. And the first tree that came to my head was a cherry blossom in my friend's garden. Now, this friend has a particularly high wall behind her garden. Most of the trees actually hidden, but you get the odd beautiful petal that comes down onto the ground. And then whenever you started explaining, oh, but the tree represents yourself, I was like, oh, fucking course it does. Like, because most of this tree is hiding behind a wall and only the like prettiest bits get up at the top. No one actually gets to see the roots and the real strength of that tree, but we'll get there. That wall's coming down. It's fine.
Yes. And that's the purpose of the exercise, is just to try and literally you externalize out of yourself onto something else. And you then realize more about yourself from that exercise. Yeah. So I have had like an ex-Premier League footballer has done it. And he's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe when he was a footballer earning whatever he was earning, he had like this big rounded tree that had all of these fancy petals and leaves on it or whatever. And you realize, like, one of the questions is, so there's 3 trees that you pick. The last one is, how do you want to be remembered when you die? And he drew, because we were screen sharing, he drew because we couldn't do it live, this tree that had like barely any, no leaves, just the tiny stalk and the root of the trunk of the tree. And that was it. And what he said is, I used to think life was about all of this distracting stuff.
Yeah.
Now I realize it's only about family and the things that matter to me most.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit balls.
That's
That's so
crazy.
cool.
That's
so
crazy.
Cool.
I love that.
Yeah. So I have a tree, and I've been sent a couple of trees by people that have done the exercise as well. And like, it's definitely worth taking a look at. The thinking is just so cool.
I want to be a palm tree.
You can?
When I die. Well, yeah, I think it's because it's tall and free and like in the breeze, chilling.
Nice. And you can.
I will.
Yeah. Nice. So when you think about this kind of clearing the deck, clearing some of the dust or the stories that are holding you back, and now you're looking forward, how do you, like, what goes through your mind to kind of push you forward? What are you reminding yourself of or telling yourself that's kind of moving you forward, even though it's difficult and even though it's a lot and it's busy and all that kind of stuff, and like you've a lot on your plate as well? So what keeps you going forward? What do you remind yourself of, or what are the stories, or what are you moving towards as well? What's that picture?
What's keeping my thought process that's keeping me going is probably the same one that pushed me so far in therapy. Is like, whenever I was in therapy, if I was about to come up with a memory or a thought, or there'd be a little voice in my head that went, don't you fucking dare say that. So if there's a voice in my head that goes, don't you dare fucking do that, then I know it's the right thing that needs to happen. Essentially. Because that, so I call it the civil service voice. I don't know why it's called. I call it the civil service voice. But if that civil service voice in my head goes, absolutely not a chance, then I'm like, that's what's happening. So yeah, that's what's happening. There is a lot of doubt where I go, and this is an identity that I've realized that I've had. I think I realized that I had it before, but I'm only really tapping into it this week, is because I'm going, but I'm not someone who's consistent. I'm not someone who sticks to things. I don't finish things out. This is not what I do. I always let things slide. And then I was just like, but that's because I've built the habits of someone who lets things slide and who's inconsistent. So now you just have to like stack up. What I have to do is like just keep doing the things that the person I want to become will do to make those things happen. And whether I feel like doing them or not, that's irrelevant. It's just basically about creating the environment and like the decision that means that I'll be like, doesn't matter if I want to get my steps done. Like, I could not think of anything worse than going out and getting 2,088 steps after this conversation, but it's going to happen. If it's up and down the driveway, I don't care, it's happening. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, yeah, if there's that voice in my head goes off, then I know it's the right decision. And also there's that tornado of words of self-doubt of like, what if this fails? That you'll never get there, that's never going to happen for you, that's never happened for you before, like that didn't sell, that didn't happen, that didn't work, why would this work, why is this different? And you're just like, because you've never actually really given yourself a shot. I was always someone who's very fortunate in school. I coasted with the bare minimum and got really good grades, and I've always been able to kind of do that. Do you know what I mean? And so this is my first time to work my ass off, and I'm like, and I was explaining this to my coach the other day. I was like, do you know what's actually holding me back from like weight loss, from everything, is that like, if I actually do what I want to do, I'm scared of the person that I'm going to become. She's intimidating as shit. Like, she's a powerhouse, but I'm also like, I want to be her so badly, but I'm also like, is it going to be lonely up there? Are people going to like me less? Is that going to be harder to swallow? Are people going to think I'm a bitch? Are people going to be like, oh, she only pretended to be nice? You know, she's not all she seems. Like, she's very selective about things. But you know, when you're like, God, but that's sometimes what it takes. And that's not about like, it's about where my time and energy is spent. Yeah. And I am scared of myself and who, like, that person I want to be. Like, I call her the Phoenix. Have you ever seen like that bit in X-Men whenever Jean comes, like, raises up and fulfills her power and she kills everybody? I'm like, is that gonna be me?
Oh, That's a good catch. So that's a
I
narrative.
worked that out yesterday.
Unbelievable.
Thank you. Go me.
Unbelievable. And it's now an invitation then to rewrite that story with you not killing everybody, but being able to inspire, motivate, be there for other people as an example. And have you heard of Marianne Williamson?
No.
She says, it is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us.
Oh, I think I have heard that before, but no, that is scary. But I'm also, yeah, like when I think about like what I want to do and where I want to be in 5 to 10 years, and then I think about like doing like the public speaking gigs I want to do and writing the books I want to write and doing those tours and doing all those different things that I want to do. I'm like, right, okay, whenever I come home at the end of the day and go to the hotel room to go to sleep, I'm going to be really lonely. And I'm like, but I'm also like, fuck, hotel rooms are great. Like I'm going to be with my favorite person. I love hanging out with myself. Do you know what I mean? So like, I'm probably not going to be that lonely, and it's maybe I will sometimes, but you know what? That's okay. Like, and I think we're so afraid of feeling sad or angry or lonely or all these different things. I'm not. I'm like, bring it. It's fine. It's clearly bringing up something I need to handle. If I'm lonely, that means I need to connect with somebody, and maybe it's time to put a bit of love into those like relationships and build those foundations. Do you know what I mean? Maybe I've been neglecting that if I feel lonely.
It's loneliness is seeing the negative of being on your own. Solitude is seeing the positives of being on your own. So you could be experiencing, I don't know what the word is, experiencing solitude doesn't have to be loneliness.
Yeah, and I think I've gotten a bit hermity. Like I would have always
lots of people have. Don't worry.
Before lockdown, like I remember Laura McLean, you know Laura McLean, she was my mindset coach for a while, and she's an amazing person. She's one of my best friends in the whole world. And I remember we were sitting having a chat on FaceTime one day, and we were trying to find a time, this is pre-lockdown, when we could go for a walk or something. I can't remember. And I just remember being like, oh no. And she was like, how do you have so many plans in your diary? Like you're literally booked up. And I was constantly driving here, there, and everywhere, driving 2 hours and then 3 hours, and then all this here people to see people who were my friends, of course, but I was always running around going to them, exhausting myself and leaving myself unable to perform in the week at work or in the gym. Just like I was just running on empty all the time basically. And I remember when lockdown came in, everyone went, oh God, we have to stay inside for 3 weeks. I was like, we have to stay inside for 3 weeks. And then it was like extended. I was like 6 weeks. And everyone was like 9 weeks. And then everyone was like, oh my God, just let us out. I was like, keep us in. I'm fine with this. And then like once even like the bars and stuff opened, I was like, no, I can't be arsed. And like the gym opened, and I was like, yeah, keep the gyms open. I'm happy with that. And then I went to Belfast, everything opened up again. I went, like, obviously moved out of my mom's house, moved in with one of my best friends, went to the pub a lot, out, drank all the cocktails, had the best time ever, made up for all the lost socializing, proper burnt myself out, made up for lost time, and then woke up in 2022 and went, nah, I can't be arsed. Like I had the most Christmassiest Christmas that ever Christmased. And then I think it's just not my vibe anymore. Like I'm just more content, like vegetating. Putting roots down. That's the better way to put it.
Nice. Good tree analogy again, right?
Thank you. We love the plants. All about plant power these days.
So what are some of the lessons that you wish you knew like years ago? Let me draw it for you, right? So what I've tried to do is set.
Can I answer that first before you do this?
Yeah, of course, but we're doing a little loop and we're coming back home now. So these are the lessons that you return back with.
I really am glad I didn't learn any of the lessons other than when I learned them.
Nice insight. Really
because
nice insight.
Even like something stupid, like the biggest mistake I've ever made was signing a guarantor form. And even that, I'm like, it was a really expensive lesson, but thank God I learned it, because I would not be, I'd probably still be a doormat if I'd never done that and learned that it doesn't matter how much you love someone or how much you think someone's not going to screw you over, they will to save themselves. Don't put yourself in the position to be steamrolled. Because I was constantly doing that. So that's like my biggest mistake. But I'm also like, if I hadn't have learned at the pace that I had have learned at, I wouldn't be me. And I've come to think I'm pretty great. So I'm like, Nah, I wouldn't. I don't wish I'd learned any lessons at any different times. I'm pretty happy with how the trajectory. What's the opposite of a trajectory? What's like the backwards of a trajectory? Rejectory?
No,
Reflection. Anyway, basically, I'm
One of
pretty
those
happy with the
things.
view in the rearview mirror. We're at 66, looks good.
And if I love that, and it's such like, again, I hope it translates to you that that's a very good insight to have already.
Thank you. I think, yeah, I didn't realize I had it till you asked.
Lots of people will not realize the benefit of getting to where they are, and you are the sum of everything that's happened to you. So for example, I wrote out the other day on my journal 4 words: I just am here. So I'm not ahead, not behind, just am where I am, and that's okay. And it was so freeing, because I thought I needed to be something else, I needed to try something else or whatever. It's like, nah, like you're saying, I wouldn't change it. Everything has taken me to exactly here. We're meant to be having this conversation, you know?
Exactly, meant to happen.
None of this stuff happened, right?
But it's so weird, because I heard your name so many times.
Yeah.
Yeah, like from, I think it was Laura mentioned you first, and I was like, all right, cool. Like somebody who Laura knows who works at Citibank, and she mentioned that you coached as well, and I was like, all right, cool. And then I think somebody else, I think maybe was I at a talk that Phil Graham gave, and he mentioned you, I think maybe. And then like I just kept, whenever I started ACA, I just had Phil Brady. And then I was just like, right. And then you were chatting, and then you were like, I think you said to me, because I was wearing yellow and blue that day, and you were like, Ukraine colors, was that intentional? And I was like, no, it actually wasn't. I had no idea who you were. I was like, well, I noticed that. I was like, I'll take it. And then I meant to like come back and chat to you, but you were like in the middle of a conversation with Annie, so I didn't want to interrupt. And then you were, I just like, we were sitting chatting, or everyone was sitting chatting. Lanny was giving us talk, and then he asked for feedback from you, and you gave it to him, and I was like, holy shit, that's Phil Brady, and I didn't even realize it. And then I was like, as soon as I realized who you were, I was like, come here, we need to talk. Which was really fun.
I'm honored. I promise I'm just normal too. Right? We're all just normal. I don't know. I remember doing a talk, and this is meant to be about you, but hopefully you don't mind me sharing.
No, my God, please.
I remember doing a talk for Lenny's last business day.
Yeah.
And there was because I did the ECA course as well, right? And the group that I did it with made memes of me. One of them is me on the face of, so I'm my face on like Jesus, and palms open and this kind of stuff. They used to call me Phil the Tank. So they put my face on the end of the turret of a tank. Let's end of these, right? It's so funny. They had me as, you know, like the face on like a sphinx or a pharaoh.
Yeah.
All of these kind of things. And they just made all of this. So I said to the group, this is who you think I am. I promise I'm not. This is me cuddling Elvis and my wife on the couch, and I have a cat. I'm a normal person. I'm not any of this absolute bullshit stories. I'm just so normal, like.
But it's just, you're such a good teacher, and you're so good at like making things make sense. That is what you make people's thoughts make sense, because everyone's thought is like a washing machine, and you help people think in a straight line. So it's nice.
I'm writing this down.
You're grand. I'll trademark them all. You can, PayPal me for them later. It's
license fine. You. Washing machine to straight line.
Or washing line, whatever. If you want to stick with the washing analogy, I'll allow
it. Thanks, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So, and there's a beautiful rainbow outside.
Lovely. Oh, do I have a rainbow? No,
symbolizes. It's actually a double one. That's kind of cool.
Oh my God, one for you, one for me. Cute. One for this convo.
So if somebody listening wanted to be a hero in their story, if they wanted to pick themselves up from where they are, what advice would you give them? What are the 3 things that you tell them?
They want to be a hero in their own story. Realize that they're not the hero in everyone else's. You're also not the main character in anyone else's story but your own. And inside your head is one of the darkest places to be sometimes. So spend more time in your body than in your mind. That's what I would tell you.
We have lots to talk about with that one.
Will we get into it a wee second?
Yeah.
Do we have time? Okay. So what I mean by that is like people's thoughts whenever something that they decide is negative can happen. Like things happen in life, they're neutral events. It's our thoughts that we choose to have that decide how we feel about them. And this took me so long to get. And of course, there are things that are always going to hurt. They're always going to make you upset. But you can completely decide how that affects you. And I didn't realize that. And I thought people who told me that were taking the piss until you do the work. It's a thing. So what I mean by that is that like pay attention to your body's reaction to something before you pay attention to your mind's reaction to something, because your mind will be going 95,000 miles an hour. Like everyone goes on at me for how fast I talk. You should hear how fast my brain goes. It's insane. Like, so when you're already, say for example, like, let's just take, you see a message from a girl on your boyfriend's phone. Okay. Straight away, your brain is going anger, resentment, fuck him, like I'm gonna punch her lights out, like blah, 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 all this here crazy stuff, like he's cheating on me, blah, blah. And it could literally be his sister's friend being like, here, have you heard from it? Like your sister, it could be something really innocent. But pay attention to how your body reacts. If your like body stiffens, your hands can go into fists, you get heat across here, your body's going into fight or flight, you're ready to fight, and you're just like, okay, my body's like really reacting very strongly about this. How about just take 3 deep belly breaths, recalibrate this emotions, like chill out my autonomic nervous system, realize that probably nothing is attacking me here. And even if he is cheating on me, I'm not cheating to him. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Like, of course it's going to hurt. It's going to take you a while to get over, but it's one of those things, if that was happening, you can still walk away. Nobody's making you stay there. Do you know what I mean? Even if it is pain, if it is hurt, that's okay. You will get past it. And it's like everything else. Tom Hanks always says, this too shall pass. Like even the good stuff, the bad stuff, if you're riding the wave high, that too will pass. If you're in a trough and you're really in the lowest ebb of your life, that too will pass. Like, and it's one of these things that you just have to really have a bit of patience and take your time. But if you keep your attention on your body rather than your mind and all the thoughts that are swimming around in there like a washing machine, it will keep you right. Do you know what I mean? You can always do, your body will always be able to do what you want it to do. It's capable of anything. It's your mind that holds you back, essentially. In a bit.
I'll send you a video I'd recorded about something that'll make a lot of sense to you about what you've just said.
Okay, cool. I'm excited.
I already have it recorded. It's on. It talks through a really interesting model that I base my coaching around, and that's why I wanted to study ECA, study the PTing. Because I was paying attention to leaders and their mindsets. So like Lenny in front of the room. Yeah. I can tell him to do something, but actually it's his body that needs to also nearly embody what that new thing is. Yeah. So there's a structure to how we get there. And it's really cool when you learn it. And it'll make a big difference to you when you think about mental health and stuff like that. Yeah. Well mentally is also well physically, and vice versa. So unwell mentally is unwell physically too. So the two are so interconnected. We ignore our bodies. We live in our minds. It's crazy. We don't even treat ourselves like a human. We don't eat. We don't drink water. We don't get fresh air. We don't breathe properly. All these kind of things. And physiologically, I can show you it on a chart what these things do if you get them right. Oh my gosh, that's so powerful. It's crazy. So I track my heart rate variability with an Oura ring. Yeah, an Oura ring. About this. I remember you telling me this. Yeah, I know a few people who have Oura rings actually. So I watch my recovery and I track it and I measure my sleep and all these kind of things because I know when I get it right, I get it right, and it makes. Well, it does, and it's like, have you ever read How the Body Keeps the Score? Yeah. Oh, banging book! Like because my therapist, there was a memory, and it was a bullying memory I had of a child, and I remember it used to. Oh my God, like the tears used to bring to my eyes when I thought about it. But she was like, Nicole, look at what your body's doing. And I was actually curling myself up like this. I was getting so small, I couldn't even look. I was looking at the floor and it was like that. So she actually did physical work around me. I had, is it EDMR or EMDR? I think it's eye movement. One of them. Eye movement. Oh, eye movement. Okay. So that's EMDR, yeah? EMDR. So she did that with me first.
but it was insane. Like when you see that the memories on the other side of your brain, it was like I couldn't get into it, I couldn't tap into it. It just got complete power over my emotions. I was drowning in this memory, and it was something that if you described it to anybody, they'd be like, that's not trauma. But like to me, it was the biggest thing in the world. I was like devastated. And once it was moved to the other side of my brain, it was like my body was able to process it and flush it out. But it was really interesting whenever your body, like when I say your body will always keep you right, it's like, what's your body's reaction to that? How does that make you feel? Because sometimes you can't make sense of it and you don't understand how you're feeling or why. But if your body's like curling up, it's because you're being submissive, you're being suppressed, you're being squished. So if you're in something, or like I was thinking about, like I was having a conversation with someone, and even like she was like, what's your body reacting to it? And when the conversation was happening, they were on this side of my face, and I physically did not want to turn my head to that direction because I was like, and she got me to do it several times till it lost its power over me. And it's really interesting when you start doing that kind of physical therapy. Like there's some things that talking just will not solve, but when you're like willing to kind of go into the physical side of your healing, oh, it's bananas. And then there was another time she came around and she pressed down on my shoulders till I had to shrug her off and get that pressure off me, and it was really powerful. Highly recommend. It was so good.
Nice.
So yeah, more time in your body, not your mind.
And don't judge the trauma though, because trauma is just when the external situation or event
is
greater than your capacity to handle it.
Yeah.
So anything above that, and especially as a child, you ingrain it into like the most basic primal part of your brain.
100%.
You haven't learned the coping mechanisms like take a breath, or ask somebody or talk to somebody about it. You haven't learned those things. It's crazy, like.
And you haven't learned those like tools that are like, it's not about me, this is about them.
Yeah.
And then it, like now looking back on what they were going through at the time, I'm like, well, no fucking wonder it looked like I had the picture perfect life from their perspective.
Yeah.
So they wanted to squish me. So I was like, fair play, girls. Like, he's managed. Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Well,
behind the wall for now, but the cherry blossom is coming out.
Oh God, I'm ready to knock it down. Have you ever seen Lord of the Rings? It's like,
So tell me this, so we'll draw to a close, right? What should I have asked you that I didn't?
Well, it depends what you wanted to know.
It also depends what you wanted to say.
I don't know. I don't, whenever I come onto a podcast, I never know what I want to say until I say it. Basically, and then I'm like, oh, that's what needed to come out. Fair enough, that's grand. So no, I wouldn't change a damn thing. That was fabulous. Really enjoyed it.
One of the guys that was on the last one, Patter, who spoke at that business day,
Patter Hughes. Yeah, he's lovely.
He asked me a good question, and he said, what did I learn from you? As in, I should have asked him what he learned from me.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, that's a brilliant question, but I'm not arrogant enough to ask it. But I'm going to be arrogant enough and ask you, what did you learn from me?
What did I learn from you? Hold on, there's a few things. Let me pick my favorite. Let me put them in a straight line first. Hold on. I learned that my identity is what was holding me back the most. Yeah, for sure. I learned that it was like I had decided what my identity was, and I was living as that person. And if I didn't want to be that person anymore, then I had to put the habits and actions in to change that identity. So yes, that was it for sure. Because I kind of forgot that.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I can choose my own identity. And I didn't even think like, oh, identity is what's holding me back.
Yeah. And if back to Atomic Habits, identity, process, outcome, right?
I'm re-listening to it at the minute because as soon as you said that, I was like, I need to listen to that again because I've forgotten it. But yeah, it was totally like identity, process, habits, outcome, 100%. And it was like, so if I want to have the identity of somebody who does this, then I need to have the habits and processes of someone who does that. Therefore, I need to create an environment that allows those habits to form easily so that I can create those processes that allow me to form that identity. And I was just like, stop being a giant twat, Nicole, just get over it. Or I was like, what is it, Andrew? Give me the best advice ever. Nicole, just fuck up and get on with it. That's probably the like my favorite piece of advice I've ever gotten. The fact that he's only 24 is insane.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It blows my mind. Like,
Yeah.
so
But when we're here, what was your favorite thing that you learned from me?
just be yourself.
Be yourself.
Yeah.
Took me a long time
Lots
to
of
learn that
people,
one too.
lots of people need to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
They really do. I was at a talk recently, Nigel Owens, the rugby referee, and he was saying it took him years to accept that he was gay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so sad.
And so he was hiding who he was from himself and from everyone around him. And he tried to commit suicide, and he just couldn't accept who he was, because when he saw what gay was portrayed as in the TV, it wasn't who he wanted to be. So he's like, well, if that's who I am and I don't want to be that, well, then why am I here? So he went through the work and did the work, and now he appreciates and accepts who he is. So be yourself, whatever
100%.
that is.
And I think as well, when it comes to that work of being yourself, people don't realize, they think that being yourself is just some sort of thing you can switch, you can flip. It is hard work, and being yourself is a skill. It is hard sometimes to be yourself, because it takes a lot of, you have to really find out who you are first before you can be yourself, I think. And it's difficult.
And you also, and how you figure that out is actually what you said, which is back to listening to your body. Your body will tell you who you are.
100%.
We need to tune into it.
Yeah. Get the tuning forks out.
Nicole, an honor. Such a nice conversation.
Yeah, I love
such
that.
a wander through lots of different things, but I appreciate your time. I appreciate on a Friday evening taking the time to do this, but I also appreciate just how honest and humble and vulnerable and honest and all the other words that you are and that you embody, and how honest you are. And I just think you will impact lives in a positive way in ways that you don't yet know. And I'm so excited to see it unfold. And I say this to everybody: I am your coach for life. You are stuck with me. So anything I can do to help, I'm happy to. And I just appreciate you taking the time to be on it.
Honestly, it was, whenever you asked me, I was like, is he for real? Honestly, me? But yeah, no, it's nice. And yeah, I will definitely take you up on that coach for life thing. Let's let the unicorn out. It's time to shine, bitches. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.